I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. Senators Ron Johnson and Rick Scott called on lawmakers to support the Luke and Alex School Safety Act on the Senate floor Wednesday. This comes one day after a gunman killed 19 children and 2 adults at a Texas elementary school. Johnson vowed that he did not want to politicize the moment and said, quote, "There's nothing partisan about this bill whatsoever. It's just a good idea that could save lives." This latest school shooting has reignited the gun control debate between Democrats and Republicans. Here's more from the Republican senators.
Today, America grieves. There's nothing partisan about it. Being a parent and grandparent, I cannot imagine the grief felt by the parents of those children. Unless you've experienced, none of us can. What's the solution? There's no one solution. Let's be honest about that. Following Sandy Hook, following Parkland, I've met with the parents of those horrific and senseless tragedies. I've been blessed to get to know 3 parents quite well: Tom and Gina Hoyer and Max Schachter. Tom and Gina are the parents of Luke Hoyer. Max is the father of Alex Schachter. 2 of the 17 victims of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School slaughter in Parkland, Florida, that occurred on February 14th, 2018. In getting to know Tom and Gina and Max, you get some sense of the level of grief. I mentioned there's nothing partisan about the grief. I listened to President Biden's remarks last night. I think the point he made that pierced my heart, because President Biden has known tragedy, is when he said that those parents in Texas, they're asking themselves, will they ever sleep again? So we all grieve. We're all looking for solutions. The good senator from Delaware said, we must take action. So what I've always valued about Tom and Gina and Max is these are 3 individuals, parents, who do know the pain, that still grieve for the loss of their sons. And yet they have not approached trying to find solutions in any partisan way whatsoever. They're trying to find areas of agreement. They advised the Federal Commission on School Safety. They came up with a pretty common sense action. May not solve all the problems, but it's a good idea. It was such a good idea that as chairman of the Senate Committee on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs, we codified it, we passed it unanimously out of our committee in November of 2019. It's called the Luke and Alex School Safety Act. It's pretty simple. It just creates a clearinghouse of information of the best practices for school safety. It involves numerous departments: Department of Health and Human Services, Justice, Homeland Security. They all must approve what these best practices are. It ensures that parents, teachers, schools officials, and other stakeholders have input into what those best practices are. It doesn't allow the clearinghouse to mandate any school take any certain action. And maybe most importantly, it publishes the available grant programs and federal resources available for school safety. Again, it passed out of the Committee on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs twice, unanimously, once under my chairmanship, once under the chairmanship of Senator Peters. There's nothing partisan about this bill whatsoever. It's just a good idea that could save lives. It was such a good idea that under the previous administration, they set up that clearinghouse. It's up and it's operating. So all this bill does at this point is served as a model for what's happening. All this bill does now is codify it to make sure this clearinghouse stands the test of time. That will always be there to provide those best practices on school safety. Now, I'm very sensitive to the moment in time we're sitting here right now. We should let the nation and those parents grieve. I don't want to politicize anything about this moment. So I called up Max, I called up Tom and Gina, and asked them, what would you like me to do? They've been trying to get this codified, passed into law for 4 years. I can't explain why it's not law. Just last month, the Senate passed the Pray Safe Act, which was basically, it took that bill, the Luke and Alex School Safety Act, and just applied it to churches. That passed by unanimous consent, no objection. I tried to attach this bill to that bill, but for whatever reason, somebody is objecting. I have no idea why. None. Again, it passed our committee unanimously twice. It's a good idea. It could save lives. It is an action when people are calling for action following this tragedy. So, Madam President, I know I see the senator from Florida that would also like to speak to this bill before I ask consent.
Madam President.
Senator from Florida.
When I heard the horrific news from Uvalde, Texas yesterday, I immediately thought of two things: my grandchildren, most of who are in elementary school, and the 17 lives we lost in Parkland, Florida 4 years ago. Our hearts are shattered. The loss of these small children, 19 children are just in 4th grade, and two teachers, it's infuriating and heart-wrenching. I can't imagine losing a child or loved one. Unfortunately, there are 17 families in Florida who don't have to imagine it. They know that pain and live it each and every day. There's seldom a day that goes by that I don't think about the families that lost their children and loved ones that day. No community should feel the pain that families in Parkland and Uvalde now feel. We'll never be able to prevent every vicious crime, but we can and must act. There are solutions to be found at the state level and the federal level. And today we can take action in the Senate to make our schools safer. I want to thank Senator Johnson for leading this bill and Senators Rubio, Risch, and Grassley for their strong support of this legislation and other efforts to keep our kids safe. This bill, the Luke and Alex School Safety Act, is named in honor of Luke Hoyer and Alex Schachter. Luke and Alex were taken from us in the shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School on February 14, 2018 in Parkland, Florida. Since that horrible day, I've worked closely with many of the victims' families as governor, now as senator, to do everything possible so that no child, educator, or family has to experience that again. There's clearly a lot more work to do. This legislation, the Luke and Alex School Safety Act, codifies a federal school safety clearinghouse. By informing parents and educators on expert recommendations and best practices that schools can implement to improve school security, this bill builds on our work to keep schools safe and prevent another tragedy. Today, we can get something done that creates safer schools for our kids and our teachers. I appreciate the work again of Senators Johnson, Rubio, Risch, and Grassley, and all of our colleagues. As we continue to pray for Uvalde and the families that have suffered this tremendous loss, I urge the Senate to pass this good bill and take a step in the right direction that keeps our kids and teachers safe.
Thank the senator from Florida for those comments. I just want to again